And you are now listening to Cooper Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Cooper Burks, bringing you the best content from the NBA and NFL, wherever you may be streaming from Spotify or YouTube. Thank you for joining. And guys, this podcast will not even need an introduction. I'm not going to be doing an introduction for this because we have breaking news out of the NBA today. If I thought free agency couldn't get any better, it's getting a lot better. This is crazy. So Adrian Wojnarowski, breaking news coming from Adrian Wojnarowski. Adrian Woj has reported that Brooklyn Nets GM Sean Marks is working with Kevin Durant and his business manager Rick Kleiman on finding a trade for the franchise star. So basically what I'm getting out here is that Kevin Durant has requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. What is going on here? Okay, first, I'm in shock. KD's one of my favorite players. I'm in disbelief right now. I can't believe what's going on. This is crazy news coming out of today. Free agency is starting within another hour. Like, it starts at 5 tonight. That's when teams can start signing and trading. Like, this is unbelievable. This is wow. This just blows my mind. So we're going to get right into this KD situation. What's going to happen? Where could he possibly end up? There's a couple of teams that he has listed apparently that's also been reported. So we're going to get into that, and then we'll talk some little free agency of what we could expect from tonight from different teams and players. So let's get into this KD situation. So Kevin Durant is now requesting a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant apparently now has a couple of teams that he would like to be traded to on his list, and that's Phoenix and Miami. I could see that happening, but there's some things that here's the thing. Phoenix and both Miami can give up a lot for Kevin Durant. Phoenix can give up you can give him a couple draft picks and maybe Cam Johnson at the most. Or you could give up and a few other players. You can give up on Miami. Who could you give up on Miami? You could trade Hero, I guess. You could trade somebody. You could trade somebody from Miami and a couple picks and a few players that can get Durant to Miami. It's going to be a lot, though. There's probably going to be different team trades at this point. But this is utterly – I'm in disbelief right now. This is crazy. And you know what's even more? Kyrie Irving just signed his player opt-in for the 2022 and 2023 season. So that's what makes it even more crazier. Kyrie opts in, KD wants out. I thought – now, if you go back and listen to episode 4 podcast, I really thought that Kevin Durant was going to stay. I even said it in the podcast. I was like, look, with Kyrie coming back, I think KD's staying, and they're going to go probably win a chip and make a good playoff run. Well, that's probably not going to happen now because KD wants out of Brooklyn. So let's just see, who do we all have to blame here? What's the whole purpose of this? Sean Marks has a lot of blame for it, and a lot of these players have blame for it. So let's just get to how this all started again. Okay, this is the fall of the Brooklyn Nets right now. I'm just saying right now. This is the fall of the Brooklyn Nets. KD and Kyrie get there in 2019. Where we end up now 2 years. Oh, and by the way, 3 years ago today, June 30th, 2019 was exactly 3 years ago today that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving both signed contracts to play for the Brooklyn Nets. And where are we at 3 years later? Kyrie's possibly staying. He could get traded. Kyrie's staying, and KD's at 1 now. So we know for sure Kevin Durant will be traded. There's no if he'll be held back. No, it's official. KD has requested a trade, and they're working on one right now. This is just what blows my mind, how the fall of the Brooklyn Nets just happened. And who gets most blame for it is probably Sean Marks. Okay, dude, I think that's who their owner is, right? That's the GM, by the way, for y'all who don't know. Sean Marks is the GM for the Brooklyn Nets. But Sean Marks gets a lot of blame for this, you guys. Sean Marks literally brought in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to build a championship team to go probably win one. Then you get James Harden, and then you lose James Harden. You lose a big player, and then you're on the verge of almost losing Kyrie Irving. But he gets signed, and now you're on the verge of losing Kevin Durant. The fact how Sean Marks put in this much of money for this team and now he's going to lose it all almost. Like, that's utterly crazy to me how he gets all these players within the past 3 years. He gets these big names, and two of them are one already left, the other one's going to be leaving, and we don't know about the other one, which is meaning Kyrie could either stay or he could either go. That's a lot to handle, and also the Nets have the players. I'm sure also have some blame too. Maybe KD could also be the reason why Steve Nash ended up there. KD is it's I can't remember who got Steve Nash the job. I don't know if it was just by choice, but this is madness, you guys. This is free agency. This is day one of free agency. We're not even into it yet. Free agency hasn't even officially started yet. The timer is still counting down to free agency. It's 3:55 right now at the time we're recording this. We still got a whole nother hour to go. At 5 o'clock is when it's supposed to start, apparently. But now that this plan has failed with the Nets, 3 years building super teams over here, 3 years in the making, and you can't even get one. They don't even get a chip. They just get one playoff series. That's the biggest thank you could give to your GM is, here you go, one playoff win. Now we're leaving. This is just utterly madness. We're gonna get into this for a couple teams that could possibly trade for him. As you know, I just covered a couple, where we're going to get more into it and more into the story. But that just blows my mind that Kevin Durant is wanting to request a trade. And he hasn't done this ever in his career. As y'all know, in OKC, free agency, signed with the Warriors. He was a free agent, signed with the Nets. Now he's requesting a trade from the Nets. Now, you just traded for Ben Simmons too. Harden and Simmons trade. That's some money in there too. KD still has a 4-year left on his contract. So the thing now here is like, what do you do now? Like, Simmons is still there. He hasn't even touched a basketball with the Nets, by the way. Kyrie just opted in on his player year option for the year 22-23 season. What is Kyrie going to do now? He could either request a trade as well, or he could just play this season. It just blows my mind that how Kyrie just opted in, and we're thinking, okay, this is it. The Nets are on their way to complete something, and now Kevin Durant requests a trade. The whole story behind this whole situation, like everything with the Nets building this team, and now they're out. Like 3 years in the making, and now they're out. Literally 3 years ago today, they signed both those players, KD and Kyrie, and now look at this. They're losing players left and right, like that. This is just, I don't know. This completely blows my mind. I still can't believe it. We have a whole another hour until free agency. We're going to get into some free agency stuff. And so let's get to it. So let's get to some teams that I think would fit KD. So as I mentioned, Woj also reported as well after the occasion that Phoenix and Miami are top teams, and you also got top teams. Phoenix and Miami are top teams that Kevin Durant wants to go to play for if he gets traded. So you have to look at it in a way. You got to look at it cap wise, and you also got to look at who you want to trade. Phoenix, you can give up, as I said, you can give up Cam, a couple role players, maybe Jay Crowder, maybe, I don't know. You got to give up something in a few draft picks. There will be draft picks that will be associated with this. Mark my word on that. There's also Miami. You'd have to give up a lot too. You have to give up some and some good role players and a couple of draft picks. Who else could be out there? I don't know. I keep swirling around on Twitter, and people are saying Durant to Mavs. I even tweeted one time saying it's only a matter. I tweeted like a few days ago saying it's only a matter of time till KD comes to the Mavs. Not saying it's happening, but here's the thing though. For the Mavs to sign KD, they got to give up something. They're going to give up. They probably will give up Tim Hardaway Jr. Looking it in my eyes, they'll either give him up, Dodo, Reggie, somebody, and a few draft picks and a few players. I wouldn't mind the Kevin Durant trade to Dallas, but we also have to look at cap-wise too. Like, we just signed a couple huge players to 5-year deals. One was Tim last year. Dodo just got his. So, I don't know. I haven't looked much into depth on what teams would fit Kevin Durant because right as this news broke, I was starting to prepare for this podcast to make it short. But yeah, this is crazy. This is huge for Brooklyn. The collapse of the Brooklyn Nets. We don't know where KD's going to go now. Oh, I guess we'll just have to wait in the days to come. But until then, I don't know. All right, so let's get into free agency now. So, as I mentioned yesterday in yesterday's podcast, free agency, NBA free agency starts today, where teams can sign and trade. I think, yeah, sign and trade with other teams. So the free agency period is now started for the offseason. The NBA offseason free agency period is now started. So we talked about yesterday in the podcast episode 5, about more of opting in and opting out with James Harden and Bradley Beal. We got that covered, and we got some of Jalen Brunson covered. And that's what I want to get into more actually is Jalen Brunson, because I want to fix some things up for here a little bit. I want to mention more about Jalen Brunson. The Mavs are screwed with Jalen Brunson. They are like, I don't think that they can re-sign Jalen Brunson now that I think about it, and more I hear about it. Because as you guys saw last week in the draft, the Knicks were making moves. They're signing they're cutting players, they're trading away players. They're making all this room just for Jalen Brunson. So they're basically prepared to be like, look, we got all of our pieces together. Now all we need to do is punch that contract to Jalen Brunson, see if he'll take it. So the Knicks just basically went away and they just basically did everything correctly. They did everything possibly to get Jalen Brunson, and now the Mavs can't do it. The Mavs had sole opportunity chances to re-sign Jalen Brunson, and it just blows my mind. But the thing is that I don't think we could afford him now. We can't afford him. I know if it's free agency and the Knicks are already pursuing to try to get him, I don't know if we can afford him still. We had a chance to get him back earlier at the trade deadline. We had a chance to re-sign him, sign him to a new deal. But I think he wanted to play this one out. He was like, no, I want to play this one out, see how I get better, see what I can do in the playoffs. Well, he shows up in the playoffs, which shows it, which is why New York is probably making this room to go get him. But in the end, I'm just like, wow, Dallas really blew it. They probably won't be getting Brunson. They're going to go out and get someone to replace Brunson. I don't know who. But Jalen Brunson was coming into the season. Jalen Brunson, we didn't know how he was going to be, because last year Jalen Brunson didn't play that well last year against the Clippers when he capped off that series. He was still young and a developing player. But it's now like that we missed out on opportunities to re-sign him. It's like, wow, we can't even get him back probably. The Knicks have done all these moves. The Knicks have outdone us. They did all these moves to just get Jalen Brunson and sign that contract and keep him there for a while. And that's why it's a 4-year deal probably it's going to be. So now we have nothing. We're left in the dirt. We don't know what to do now. Cuban wants to keep him. But if business is business, then we probably have to get rid of him. But yet again, I don't know how Jalen Brunson could. Jalen Brunson's an excellent player too. That's what I keep mentioning. That's what I love about him. He's an excellent player. Last year, though, again, as I mentioned, he wasn't playing well against the Clippers. He was still young. He still was low on points. He couldn't get there yet. He couldn't find his groove. This year, he improves a lot, and then he plays well in the playoffs. But it's just like, man, we're about to lose him for nothing too. Like we're gonna get nothing back into this. Like we don't get to trade him or anything and get something back out of this. We're just gonna lose him. We're just gonna let him. It's just sad knowing that Jalen Brunson's probably going to walk, and we couldn't even do anything about it to resign him and give him a deal when he could have taken one mid-season at the deadline, but he wanted to play it out. I say we should have signed him then, right in there. But it doesn't hurt me, but it's just we're about to lose Brunson is what I'm saying. That the Knicks made all these good preparations for it, and now we're about to lose him. So off the Jalen Brunson topic, you can listen me talk about more about Brunson and Beal and Harden in episode 5's podcast. Go check it out on Spotify and YouTube. But let's get to more free agent talks, because there's a lot more players out there in the talks of free agency. Players like DeAndre Ayton, who's still either players like DeAndre Ayton, Zach LaVine. Who else is out there? Mo Bamba's out there, I believe. Isaac's going to be a free agent too, as well. Who else? I know there's a lot more. Yeah, I basically looked at the free agent list before I got on this podcast, and I'm already forgetting who I forgot. But let's start with DeAndre Ayton. So DeAndre Ayton at the beginning of the season declined to take his extension for this year for the 2022 season. He didn't take the contract, so they didn't extend him. So now he's on his last year, and now he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, apparently. So what went wrong for DeAndre Ayton and the Suns is that it was this past year, they get bounced second round after losing to the Mavs. They lose to the finals last year. Apparently Jalen Brunson and Monty Williams, the head coach for the Phoenix Suns, were not on good terms in that Game 7 game against Phoenix. Apparently, in that Game 7 game against the Mavs, apparently Monty pulled DeAndre Ayton and didn't allow him to play for the rest of the game at one point. Like, there was just heated controversy between them. So with that being, DeAndre Ayton may leave. I've heard the Hawks have been in the rumors to go pick him up, maybe like do a sign-in trade because he's unrestricted. But with all that saying, maybe I don't know. It's going to be weird. It's going to be fun to watch tonight, but I'm thinking because DeAndre Ayton's a great center for the Suns. He can get boards and he can score big time in big moments as well. We've seen that in the past before. But I'm just thinking like what went wrong. Like I'm trying to think what teams could go out and get DeAndre Ayton. Teams that need a big like DeAndre Ayton. Names have also come up like Zach LaVine. Where's Zach LaVine going to go? Because apparently Zach LaVine's a free agent. We don't know where he's going to go now. Apparently, there's been talks where Zach LaVine might stay with the Bulls, and I think it's a good idea. Zach LaVine needs to stay with the Bulls. The Bulls are a team that LaVine's been on all this time. Well, he got traded to, I think, he was with the Wolves, then he got to the Bulls. So I think they keep him. There's other teams out there that could go for him, but Zach LaVine is somebody that's probably going to take that contract for the Bulls and let it ride. Just keep going with him. There's still a lot more names I could be talking about right now. But as far as for the whole Harden and Bradley Beal, I think Harden stays. I think Bradley Beal stays just because looking at both of their situations for how they want to play it out, Harden's staying because I don't think he's going to be able to find anywhere else to take his career with a different team. And you just wasted a lot to go get him, so you want to definitely resign him. Bradley Beal, longtime tenured Wizard, so I think he's going to be staying too. But that's what I think is going to happen tonight in free agency. Again, this is going to go on all night. I think it's just basically, free agency has officially begun tonight. We'll see what happens from now until opening night of tip-off for the NBA. So I'm looking more down the list here on the free agent list. Zach LaVine, he's up there. DeAndre Ayton's right there. DeAndre Ayton will definitely go somewhere or stay with Phoenix. Again, back to DeAndre Ayton, I just don't know. I think he might go because they weren't on good terms anyway in the first place when that Game 7 ended ugly for them and they didn't get that contract extension done. Ayton could take the 5-year or 4-year deal route maybe, but if you have JaVale McGee, don't forget that that Phoenix still has JaVale McGee, which is with as ruthless as he is, he's a good ball dominant player. He can get you buckets on the inside and bring good defense. As y'all saw in Golden State, that's what he was doing. But yeah, so with all that said, I think I'm going to end it here on the short podcast. Sorry it wasn't as long. I just wanted to get out the breaking news that Kevin Durant is requesting a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. Again, this is the fall of the Brooklyn Nets. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know where KD might go, where he could end up, if Kyrie's going to stay, if Kyrie's going to go. But without further ado, that's the end of this podcast. Thank you for listening. This is episode 6. Again, I'm your host, Cooper Brooks. Hope y'all enjoyed. Remember, stay out there positive in the world and just be yourself. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on next episode. Thank you.